Good morning, Dan and Amy, and BET founder, Black Entertainment Television founder, and billionaire Robert Johnson has been speaking out quite a bit lately on topics of race and economic opportunity in America. And he's got a lot of sensible things to say. I don't agree with
He's
him.
from Freeport, Illinois.
Freeport pretzels.
Yes.
I don't agree with him on his reparations proposal, but he is a thoughtful guy, and he gave some great riffs on Fox the other day, talking about the
Tear down of statues.
talking about the guilt of white leftists. Hey, white leftists, you're not fooling him. You're not fooling anybody. You think we care about your guilt?
And so to me, when I see all of this, changing names, toppling statues, firing professors because they said all lives matter, it just shows me that white America is still continually incapable of recognizing that Black people have their own ideas and thought about what's in their best interest.
He just left out one word: white leftist people are incapable. He left that out, but he's not wrong, as we know. But just another real-time example of what he's talking about. The Houston Association of Realtors will now use the word primary to describe bedrooms and bathrooms on its listing service to replace the word master.
What?
The Court of Master Sommeliers, which grants wine stewards the sought-after Master Sommelier title, said it will no longer use the term before a sommelier's last name. You know, because master connotes slavery. When somebody says, "Let me see your master bedroom," they are hearkening back to the slave era. When somebody says, "I'd like to see the wine list from your master sommelier," they're advancing, I don't know, the interests of bondage or something. That's where we're at.
Well, but that's like the Dixie Chicks now calling themselves the Chicks, because Dixie is nicknamed for the South, and Lady Antebellum now Lady A, and the Splash Mountain is now some other name.
Yeah, and the Chicks are going to have to go too as soon as the feminists hear about a band called the Chicks. So then it's just going to be, I don't know.
What are they? Just the?
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Jeff Bezos can rename them, like he's renaming that Seattle NHL stadium, the Climate Pledge Arena.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Larry Elder joins us now. He'll have insight and humor on this topic. He is, of course, the host of The Larry Elder Show, which airs on AM 560, our airwaves, weekdays 7 to 9 p.m. He is the sage of South Central. He is also the executive producer of the recently released movie Uncle Tom, An Oral History of the American Black Conservative, which is excellent. I've seen it, and I recommend it. Go to uncletom.com to get it and support Larry's efforts. Larry, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan and Amy, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Do you feel like we are a more racially tolerant nation now that master has been removed and now we're going to use primary bedroom instead?
You know, I was looking at some of the stats in Chicago. What was it that recent weekend? 14 people shot and killed, over 100 wounded. I got a question. 104. How many Confederate generals were seen leaving the scene of the crimes when this happened? Just in general numbers, roughly how many were seen leaving the scene of the crime?
Well,
this whole thing is absurd.
Here's the thing, Larry. One of the problems in urban centers, as you know, is we don't know because we clear so few murder cases. That's another problem.
That's right. Yeah, I heard 75% of them are unsolved. And Baltimore has 3 times the per capita murder rate that Chicago has. As you know, during that weekend, there was a 3-year-old killed in Baltimore and a 3-year-old killed in Chicago.
And why doesn't that why aren't there protests for that?
I mean, because
six of those kids, Larry, were Chicago public school students.
Right. Well, because
Cases
the real problem
of mistaken identity.
Yeah, because the real problem is the lack of fathers in the home, which is a product of the welfare state, the so-called war on poverty that was launched in the 60s with the best of intentions. And what happened, poverty, which was declining pretty rapidly in the black community, began to flatline. And it happened because what we've done is we've incentivized women to marry the government, and we've incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. And that's why we're seeing these problems. And again, forget about elder. Obama said a kid raised without a father is 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, 20 times more likely to end up in jail. Now, the question is, why have we gone from 25% black kids being born outside of wedlock in 1965 to 70% now? And if you look at the welfare state spending and the increase in the percentage of black kids being raised outside of a marriage, they parallel. And it's also had the impact on the white family. 25% of white kids today are now raised without fathers. 50% of Hispanics are. It is a neutron bomb that's been dropped on this country, and no one is talking about it at all. And the reason the left is not talking about it, of course, is they have to look in the mirror and then rethink everything. And I think people on the right don't want to talk about it because it sounds like you're blaming the victim. It sounds like you're not acknowledging the legacy of racism and Jim Crow. Yeah, blah 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 blah. So we don't talk about the real problem here.
And the other thing that needs to happen is the people that are willing to talk about it, particularly black conservatives, but conservatives generally, should be amplified. The movie that you produced and that you would take part in as well, Uncle Tom: An Oral History of the American Black Conservative. I assume that disposition was the impetus for you putting together this film.
Well, that's right. And, pretty much my entire career and before that, just for raising my hand and raising an objection or pointing out something that suggests just maybe whatever phenomenon we're talking about has nothing to do with racism. I've been called an Uncle Tom, as have Candace Owens, who's in the film, and Herman Cain, who's in the film, and Alan West, who's in the film, and some of the other people who are in the film, rather than this igniting a serious, healthy discussion. I mean, why are blacks in bed with the party that does not want to give inner-city parents a choice to opt out of a bad-performing government school? I went to Crenshaw High School. That was a high school that was featured in Boys in the Hood. Now, 3% of kids in my former high school can do math at grade level, 3%. And it's a Crip school, meaning the gang Crips have adopted the school, which is why Ice-T said he went there. Now, what responsible parent sends their kid to a school where only 3% of the kids can do math at grade level, and the school is run by the Crips? No parent would if they have an option out. Well, the Republicans want to give you an option out. The Democrats don't. That alone ought to be something that we ought to be talking about, to rethink this 95% alliance to the Democrat Party. But instead, we're not having that discussion because as soon as people like myself, Walter Williams, Tom Sowell, Shelby Steele raise these questions, they're ignored or called Uncle Toms.
Well, when did you, and not sound like Oprah, have your aha moment, realize, you know what, I'm not a Democrat, I'm a Republican?
Well, I never felt, Amy, that I was a victim. It's largely because of my dad. My dad was a lifelong Republican. He always felt Democrats want to give you something for nothing, and when you try to get something for nothing, you almost always end up getting nothing for something. And this is a guy who had every reason to whine and complain and get an AK-47 and become a Black Lives Matter guy. He left home when he was 13 years old. His mom kicked him out of the house. He doesn't know his biological father. You're talking about a black man, Jim Crow South, Athens, Georgia. He picked himself up, fast forward, started running a little cafe, got some property, and retired very comfortably. This is what happens in America, and this is during a time where the obstacles were immeasurably more difficult than they are right now. Things have never been better in this country. Race and gender have never been a more insignificant factor in this country, but we're whining more about it than ever. It's really quite remarkable.
One of the things I like about the film, and I'm not giving too much away here, I don't think, is the beginning and the beginning and the end are bookended by, I think he's a plumbing or electrical contractor, right?
Right. His name is Chad.
And so it's a regular dude, entrepreneur, and his story is then interwoven throughout some of the other conversations you have that are had with some of the other participants, some of whom you were mentioning. And the reason I like that so much is because what the press corps does is caricature Black Americans. You're either like a celebrity, you're in media, or you're an athlete, or you're being interviewed on the news about something terrible that happened in a neighborhood that's beset by violence, as if there's nothing in between. There's no middle and upper middle income Black Americans in every other sector of our society doing success, quietly living out their lives, raising families. And so I appreciate it wasn't just names in your film. It's also a profile of a Black American that doesn't get profiled very much.
Well, that's right. And most blacks are working class or better. It's not true that most blacks are poor. And the reason we chose this man, and you're right, he is a contractor. His name is Chad Jackson, is because he wasn't well known. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't a political guy. He didn't have sharp elbows. He's just a regular guy. And he's a Christian, but he was still a Democrat, and a fellow Christian challenged him to read the platforms of the Republican Party and Democrat Party. And he did. And when he finished reading the platform, he said, damn, I'm a Republican. And the grief he got from friends and family, including his own mom, is kind of the driving narrative of the movie.
Wow.
And
now, what?
Go ahead.
Go
I'm
on,
sorry.
Dan.
Go ahead.
No, Dan, you go.
So, so thinking about the movie, what is it that you hope to accomplish from the film and from profiling all these different Black Americans, different walks of life, different age cohorts? What do you want people to come away with?
Well, one of my friends who is a liberal saw the film, and he said it was entirely different than what I thought it was going to be. First of all, I thought it was going to be an autobiography about you. I said that would have been boring. And he said the second thing is I thought you were going to tell people how to think, what to think, and what you're saying is you are free in America to think, and you ought to be able to do that without being ridiculed as a sellout. I think that once people see this film and you look at the history of the Republican Party, history of the Democratic Party, and it puts the lie to that notion that they suddenly switched in the mid-'60s, all the racists left the Democrat Party and joined the Republican Party. Once you watch this thing and get a good understanding of the history of this country and of the respective parties, I think that the 95% monolithic black vote that goes to the Democratic Party is going to be reconsidered and ought to be reconsidered for the reasons I mentioned. Vouchers alone, illegal immigration is another one. And the fact that Donald Trump is doing something about these prisoners that have had very long sentences. About 1,000 sentences have been reduced. Most of them have been black men who've had their sentences reduced by an average of around 70 months. So the movie simply suggests maybe, just maybe, we ought to be rethinking our traditional allegiance for all these reasons. And if somebody suggests that we ought to be rethinking this, how about listening? How about having a healthy discussion as opposed to writing this person off as a coon or a self-loather or a sellout?
Yeah, and the early reviews of Uncle Tom, I mean, they're wonderful. But do you focus? I have yet to see it, and I can't wait to see it. We're going to watch it as a family. But do you focus a lot on President Trump in the upcoming election?
There's a little bit of Trump in the near the end of the movie, but no, it's not a pro-Trump thing. It's not done with any Republican money. It's not done with any political party money. Just a handful of investors who really felt that this 95% lemming type vote for the black community is hurting, and we're not having a healthy discussion about that. And that's what the hope is, to unite it, to ignite this. And I'm hoping that I can get independents and liberals to look at this film, because when I have been able to get them, and you can see some of the reviews on IMDb, they're surprised. And many people are saying things like, you've told me stuff I didn't know. Maybe, just maybe, I shouldn't be so hostile to people who have a different point of view.
I had this conversation with Ryan Bomberger from the Radiance Foundation earlier in the week, and just put this to him, put it to you. I mean, in terms of racial cohesion and on a go-forward basis in this country, and maybe just cohesion more generally, do you think it is going to necessarily have to be black conservatives who lead the way? Because, frankly, you have a moral standing in these times that your off-the-shelf white guy like me doesn't.
You know, Dan, I hear that a lot. I got a letter from somebody who lives in Europe, white person, and he said, I saw your film, and I love reading videos and books and articles about black conservatives because it teaches me not to be lazy and to appreciate all that I have, and it makes me work harder. Wow, I didn't anticipate that. I don't really know. I mean, I don't really know what the reaction is going to be. I do think that it's a healing movie. It's not a defensive movie. It's not
Right.
an angry movie.
Right.
The people that are called names are not mad at the people who call them names. Basically, we feel bad that we're not having the discussion that I mentioned. I kind of pity people that call me these kinds of names, because it shows your mind has been polluted by the Democrats, by the media, by academia, and by Hollywood to perceive me as an enemy. You may not be on my side, but I'm on your side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. Larry Elder, host of the Larry Elder Show on AM 560, weekdays 7 to 9 p.m. Of course, nationally syndicated, but on our airwaves, 7 to 9 p.m. weekdays. He's the executive producer of the movie Uncle Tom, An Oral History of the American Black Conservative. And I know the website is uncletom.com. Where else can they get the movie, Larry? where else should they go? That's it?
That's it for now,
UncleTom.com.
yeah.
Okay.
UncleTom.com.
And you're working on streaming distribution as well?
Absolutely. We want to get this thing and to make it available to anybody who wants to see it. Eventually, that's the goal, and hopefully before the election.
And hopefully get it into the classrooms, too, if you can get some
Absolutely.
support for that. He is the Sage of South Central, Larry Elder. Thanks so much for joining us. Best of luck with the film.
Thank you, Dan and Amy. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Larry. Always good to have you on. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Have you ever wanted to learn a new language like French, Spanish, or Russian, but thought it would be too difficult and time-consuming? Then go to Babbel.com and try it for free. Babbel works because it's built around real life. It teaches you everyday practical conversations that you will actually use. In 15 minutes a day, you'll be on your way to speaking a new language